It's awesome to be sitting across from you, and your story blows everybody's mind. Can you share with us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so most people know me from my fit to fat to fit journey, which is kind of crazy, but basically I had this idea about 7 years ago where I decided to get fat on purpose. Now the backstory to that is I grew up my entire life in shape. I grew up playing football and wrestling. I grew up in a family of 11 brothers and sisters. We all played sports and we were all active. So for me, I never knew any differently, and it was easy to be in shape for me. And so I became a personal trainer in 2009, and I started training clients, and I instantly knew there was a disconnect between them and me because I couldn't understand why it was so hard for them just to follow the meal plans that I gave them and the workouts. I'm like, it's easy. You just put down the junk food, you go to the gym. It's not that hard. It's easy for me. Why can't you do it? And they would tell me, Drew, you don't understand because for you it's easy, and you don't understand how hard it is. And so I kind of took that to heart, and I thought, okay, maybe there's something I need to learn as a trainer to better understand where my clients are coming from. And I had this lightning bolt moment where this idea popped up in my head. And the idea was to get fat on purpose. And I remember even Googling it to see if anyone had done this before, on purpose at least, and no one had. And I'm like, okay, I felt called to do this, as crazy as it sounded. So for 6 months, I stopped exercising. I ate an unrestricted diet, which mostly consisted of highly processed food. I didn't really do the fast food route like Morgan Spurlock because I think most people saw what that did. And we all know fast food is unhealthy for us. I focus on everyday American foods that some of us don't think are that unhealthy for us, like white bread, white pasta, chips, cookies, crackers, sugary cereal, soda, juices, granola bars, all those cheap, easy foods that are affordable at the grocery store. And I'll be honest with you, they taste really good. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is probably the best thing ever out there, but I ate that for 6 months and gained 75 pounds of pure fat in 6 months.
How is that even possible? Like, how did your body do that? Was it painful?
It was way harder than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
It was a very humbling experience. I knew I was going to gain some weight. I was expecting maybe 50 or 60 pounds. And a lot of people told me I wasn't able to get fat, or they didn't think I was going to be able to because of my genetics. But very quickly, I was surprised, and everyone else was surprised at how quickly the weight piled on. Gaining 75 pounds in 6 months was hard to do. But the hardest part was the mental and emotional side of this whole transformation. Physically, I knew I was going to get man boobs and a big gut and a big butt. I wasn't prepared for how it was going to affect me mentally and emotionally.
Tell us about it. I'm so curious.
So the biggest lesson I took away from all of this was, how much of transformation is mental and emotional. So during my journey, as I gained weight, part of my identity, or most of my identity, was based on my body, what my body looked like. And I was used to being the fit guy, six-pack, muscles, and I was confident in that. But once that body was gone, I freaked out, and I didn't know who I was anymore. I wanted to go up to complete strangers and tell them, hey, here's my before picture. I don't really look like this. Go to this website. It's just an experiment. This really isn't me. And I wanted to tell people that so bad. And my self-esteem, my self-confidence took a hit because I've never been overweight before and didn't know how to handle it. And this is why this journey was so humbling for me, was the mental and emotional side of it. I remember at one point my daughter, who was 2 years old at the time, she wanted to play with me. And I remember I was about 50 pounds or 60 pounds overweight at this point. And she wanted me to chase her around the house. And I came home from work and I was tired, I was exhausted. Chafing became an issue. And I was running around with her for about a minute. And then I was so exhausted, I just sat down on the couch and I told her, hey, Daddy needs to take a break. I'm really tired. And she didn't understand. She had these puppy dog eyes and she started to cry. And she's like, come play with me. And in that moment, it hit me that, there's probably millions of people that can't play with their kids or their grandkids. Not so much because of their weight, but because of their health and how bad that sucks. Even though this was an experiment I was doing on purpose, it hit me at that moment that this journey was becoming more of a mental and emotional journey. And it was super humbling and one of the hardest things I've ever done.
When you put that weight on over those 6 months, did you put it on each month, like 10 pounds? Like, how did it sort of increase? And then when you started to bring it down, did it come off in the same format?
That's a good question. It was pretty consistent as I gained the weight. There's some weeks where I gained 10 pounds and some weeks where I gained 1 pound. And there were some weeks where I lost weight. So it wasn't linear. It was, there were some ups and downs, but for the most part, it was, pretty consistent as each month as I went on. And on the journey back to fit, there were some moments. I lost a lot of weight the first week. Most of that was water weight, probably. Shifting over from 5,000 calories of Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Mountain Dew to 2,000 calories of real whole food. But there was moments where I hit a plateau, where I gained weight on my journey back down to fit, and there was moments where I didn't lose any weight at all. And here I was, this trainer who's supposed to have all the answers, and I was doing everything right. And yet it wasn't reflecting on the scale. And I had moments with my clients in the past where they would tell me they're following my plan, but they weren't seeing the results. And I'm like, you're probably not doing something right, or you're probably lying to me about something. And then here I was going through the same thing. And it was a really powerful experience to kind of see that, even for me, I struggled with the weight loss.
With 60% of this country either overweight or obese, and most of the rest of us thinking about our weight, right? Like there's an obsession around, am I eating the right foods? Am I putting on weight? I mean, most men are interested in muscularity, and women are interested in being thin. Yeah. So we have this obsession in this country, yet it seems like we've taken such a wrong turn. From your experience with being on both sides, what would you recommend for somebody that's listening to you, watching you right now and saying, yeah, I'm that person who can't play with my kid. I'm one of those millions. Yeah. What would you say?
The biggest thing, in my opinion, that needs to change is our perception of what health and fitness is. Our perception of what health and fitness is based on Instagram, social media, movies, TV shows, and we see people and we think that's what my version of healthy is supposed to look like. When in reality, our version of healthy, our healthy looks different on our body than that person's healthy. The problem is that we compare ourselves and think that that's what we're supposed to look like in order to be healthy. And so my goal, my whole idea with my Fit to Fat to Fit movement is to get people to change their perception of what health and fitness really is and focus on their version of health and fitness and what works best for them. And it's hard because they see these Instagram models with six-pack abs and they think, I need to look like that. But in reality, they don't. Your version of healthy can look totally different than what you're seeing online. And so it's an uphill battle, to be honest with you, and it's going to be slow progress. But I think if there's more people out there delivering this message, telling people that you don't need to be 5% body fat or less to be healthy. Because at the end of the day, I have a TV show, and we see The Biggest Loser, and we see people get skinny, and we think, oh, they won, they're healthy. But on the inside, you don't really know. There's a lot of people walking around with six-pack abs and are skinny, but they're dying on the inside, And so we don't focus on the health aspect, on what's happening to the inside of our body. So my goal is to change that through education and motivation, inspiration, through using social media and other platforms.
I love that you're saying that. That's so empowering for each and every one of us, right? Like it's not one look fits all, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that's what makes us our best version of ourselves. So on your show, what is the thesis? Like what is the theme? Why did you decide that you wanted to do this? Yeah,
so after Fit to Fat to Fit took off and it went viral, right? Because who would do that on purpose, right? But the thing is, I had no intention of any of that happening. Yeah. But I wrote a book about it, and the book became a New York Times bestseller, and then I met with a production team. We created a TV show concept. We pitched it. It got bought by A&E. The concept in a nutshell was to take other trainers from across the country who were similar to me, who were more judgmental, self-obsessed, putting them through this process of gaining fat on purpose for 4 months, and then teaming up with their client and losing weight together as a team, but now as a fat trainer, so that they could come out of it more empathetic and have more respect and a better understanding. Because I feel like that's what's going to change the industry, because nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And so if you're a trainer, a coach, a leader trying to get people to change, you could have all the knowledge in the world, right? You can know everything about ketosis, about whatever. None of that matters if you can't relate that to your client, or if your client does not trust you, or your client does not feel that you care about them truly. So I think empathy is a very powerful tool in the fitness industry, and that's what my hope is with the TV show and the Fit to Fat to Fit movement, is to approach it with an empathetic approach and having respect and better understanding, because I feel like that's what's going to make those people out there more willing to listen to what you have to say.
Incredible. So you take this empathy, that's a key ingredient, and I think empathy for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like if we can be kind to ourselves as we're going through the process of becoming healthier, it's not our fault, in my opinion, as the American public, that we've taken so many wrong turns. I mean, you look at the foods that are out there, like you said, how tasty they are and what they actually do to our bodies. So your show, Fit to Fat to Fit, has been airing for 2 years. It's so incredible, and you've probably impacted so many people's lives. What are the 3 key takeaways that you would say you would bring through these 2 years that have really had a profound effect on you and your continual understanding of how to get people healthy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So now, ever since Fit to Fat to Fit, the TV show, my own personal journey has taken off. I've shifted my focus of how I try and help people. You could give someone the best meal plans, the best workouts. I'm a big fan of the keto diet. You could give someone the keto diet and the best trainer, the best meal plans. None of that matters if that person doesn't know how to overcome their own mental and emotional challenges. So my goal is to help people on overcoming that, because I don't think it's a lack of knowledge so much. We all know we need to eat healthy and exercise. I don't think the majority of people are suffering from a lack of knowledge of that. But if we can help them overcome their mental and emotional challenges to make that a lifestyle change for them, that's where I feel like we're going to make the biggest difference. So what I do now with my brand is, yes, we help people on the physical side. We help them, by giving them tools to follow the ketogenic diet successfully. But on top of that, we give them additional support on the mental and emotional side. And the 2 biggest things that I've seen for people to help them stay consistent with a healthy lifestyle, whether it's keto or vegan or whatever, it doesn't matter, is accountability. They need to stay accountable to an audience, right? So if they're just trying to willpower their way through it on their own and say, okay, I'm going to eat healthy for the rest of the year, I'm never touching sugar again, we know that's not going to last very long. But if they have accountability through a support network, so what I recommend people doing is using social media to their benefit, and there's private Facebook groups nowadays and apps that people can use in technology where it keeps them accountable to an audience. You can even pay money into certain apps, and if you don't achieve your goal, you lose that money. Or sometimes apps will even take that money and invest it in a charity that you hate. So you don't want to lose out on that money. Right. You don't want to donate your money to a charity that you hate. And so there's ways to stay accountable that are out there. And what that leads into is the second thing, which is having a support system. And so these private Facebook groups where you have a safe place to share your struggles, your successes, ask your questions where no one's gonna make you feel dumb or stupid, but it's a safe place to share about your journey. And it's very empowering to see people go in these groups and post about their progress, or they ask a question and people are there to lift them up when they want to quit or give up. It's very empowering. These are total strangers from across the world coming together with one common goal. I think those kinds of things are going to help people maintain a healthy lifestyle over time, rather than like, okay, here's your 60-day plan, follow it, good luck, and hopefully you are transformed the rest of your life.
I love that. It's about empathy. It's really supporting one another in this journey. And I think a lot of the strategies, I know for myself personally, when I eat high fat and I'm incorporating ketogenics, it is so much easier, right? Can you talk about that as well?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the keto diet, and I feel like the world of biohacking / keto, together is kind of a new age thing, but I think it's becoming more mainstream, where we tell people that, living a healthy lifestyle isn't just about diet, right? It isn't just about that. It's so much more than that. There's a physical component, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And if we can teach the masses that those things, there's parallels between all of those, and you can achieve, physical happiness as well as spiritual happiness at the same time, I think that's where we can make the biggest impact, rather than just helping someone get skinny or get muscular. People realize that's not the end of the road. That's not the finish line. There's more to it. There's more to this life than just having low body fat percentage. And so, I think keto is a great way to help that person feel optimal. But then if you can lead them from there into, here's some biohacking that you can add on top of the keto diet to help, your mind and your spirit feel optimal as well, from, meditation to breathing techniques, positive affirmations on top of a healthy diet. I feel like that's where it's more of a complete transformation, rather than just helping people get off their medications or losing weight. I think that's cool, but that's not the end of the road.
When you went on the Tonight Show and you shared your story, were you surprised by some of the reaction from the general American public? What were your thoughts?
Very surprised. Like I said, I had no intention of going on any TV show because I had no connections. I had no marketing strategy. It was, I'll say it was just luck. A lot of it was luck, but I feel very fortunate and very blessed. But
I think it was different than luck. I think it was that empathy. It was that desire to be able to connect with your client base that created this entire environment. And that's, in my opinion, why it's magnified so incredibly.
That's a good point. It's the relatability factor, right? Because if I had done it without that, I don't think it would have been what it is today. I don't think it would be where it is today.
Yeah.
And so, I was surprised. It was, it was crazy, but sometimes it takes something crazy to catch people's attention and then from there motivate, inspire them to make a lifestyle change.
So you get this incredible amount of interest from the media. You're on the Tonight Show. Everybody's interested in what you've done from fit to fat to fit. And you have a show. And I'm just curious to know, what were some of the surprises that came along the way? Did everybody love the story? What were the reactions?
Yeah, it was about 95% positive, but there was those who didn't understand why I was doing it, right? From an outside perspective, they saw photos of this fit trainer get fat, back to fit, and they think, oh, yeah, that's nice. He, what does he know, right? But once they saw my videos on YouTube and read my blogs and realized how humbling this journey was, then it was like, oh, that's why he's doing it. His intention was to do this, to really, truly try and learn. Not to say that, I came out of it with a complete understanding. There's no way I could ever know what it's like for someone that's 300 pounds overweight that grew up their entire life out of shape and who's been bullied. It does, even if I gained 100 pounds and kept it on for 10 years, it's not the same, right? There's no way it could be the same. But that wasn't the purpose of the journey, was to say, hey, I lost the weight, why can't you? That was not the purpose of it. It was for me, someone who had never been overweight, to kind of see just a little bit how hard it is for people, especially on the mental and emotional level, so that I could have more understanding, because I was a trainer and I was a coach. And I think if all trainers, coaches, leaders could step into the shoes of their clients first and have that empathy, like I said, I feel like that's going to make the biggest impact, to have the people out there that are suffering to listen to the experts first, because they trust them, because they really feel that they care about them.
You spoke about one of the big discoveries, plateauing, and it not being your fault, right?
Yeah.
Like, as you were losing the weight, there were weeks where you didn't lose weight. Talk more about that, and then I also want to know, what other sort of mysteries did you discover?
Yeah, first of all, I think it was really humbling for me as a trainer to go through that, right? Because it helped me relate to my clients. Because I came out of it, like I said, more empathetic and a better understanding of like, okay, I get where you're coming from now, especially when it comes to plateaus, and I've experienced it myself. And so the biggest thing to do is to not freak out and not think it's the end of the road or the end of the world because you've hit a plateau, because we all hit plateaus at some point in time. It's just our perception of what a plateau is, and just realizing that if we stay consistent over time, the results will take care of themselves. Just continue to focus on the process. Don't worry so much about the results in that moment. The other surprises were this. I really feel like food addiction is real after having this experience, because going from eating those foods for just 6 months and then all of a sudden shifting over to eating real whole food, I went through 2 weeks of hell where I was going through withdrawal symptoms of those foods. And here I was, a proponent of living healthy, and the food tasted awful. I had headaches. I was grumpy. I was moody. I felt miserable, even though here I was, drinking spinach and kale shakes and eating all these healthy foods. To have those experiences really helped me realize exactly what my clients struggled with when they would tell me, Drew, I tried your meal plans for a couple weeks and, I gave in, had my soda, or, I didn't stay consistent with it. And before I'm like, what's wrong with you? It's not that hard. You just put down the soda, you eat the healthy food, and you don't eat it. It's not that hard. Until I went through this experience for 6 months. Addicted. I did become addicted, and it opened up my eyes, and was a very humbling experience to see how powerful that emotional connection to food really is.
And physical as well, right? Like, you talk about this addiction.
Yeah.
What are people doing? What are you doing on your show to help someone detox from that addiction of processed foods and the rest of it? Yeah,
I wish there was a simple, easy pill you could just swallow to boom, here it is. You're over your food addiction. Just like any addiction. It's not so much, we ask the question, why do you have this addiction? It's why the pain, right? Why do you have this pain that you're covering up with this addiction? And I feel like that's where we struggle as a society to look at people who have an addiction, whether it's food, porn, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. We look at them as broken because they have this addiction, but it's like, okay, what pain are you covering up? And that's why it's very individual. So it's not like, okay, here's how you detox from it, and then boom, all your troubles are solved, right? And with food addiction, it's a little bit harder because there's food is legal. We have to have it to survive, and it's in our face every single day. Imagine if you were a heroin addict, and every time at Walmart checking out, there's little heroin sticks, just everywhere, whatever, in your face all the time. That's what it is for a food addict.
But with any addiction, right, there's a physical detox.
Yeah.
Like with a heroin addict, they have to go through that physical detox and then really go to the core, to the root cause of what it is. So for the physical detox, like getting off sugar, I know for me, I was so addicted to sugar. And when I started to help myself, I found things, and this might sound strange, but like I found that the little fat bombs were so helpful to help me with the addiction, because it wasn't necessarily that I needed the sugar.
Yeah.
It was just that I was still craving it.
Yeah.
And so a fat bomb would help. What are your thoughts on different foods that can help you with the
Yeah,
detox?
and that's the interesting thing about the keto diet is nowadays it's so convenient and it's become so mainstream that there are these little keto treats that are stepping stones that I see, right? Should you have a fat bomb all the time, anytime you have a craving? No, but if it's your first step into getting off of, Cinnamon Toast Crunch or a soda, and you shift over to fat bombs, that's going to be a lot healthier for you. And so it's cool that we have the accessibility to those types of treats every now and then to get you to where, you can get off of sugar. But like you said, there's the physical detox. And I think that's where the mental and emotional component comes into transformation to making it a true lifestyle change, is helping them overcome that by giving them a support system. Just like people in AA, if you just try and get off of that addiction by yourself, it's really, really hard. But if you go through it with like-minded people that are going through your struggles, and you see that, hey, there's other people just like you going through the struggle, you're not alone, it's empowering that person and helps normalize it for them so they don't feel like they're this, you feel like you're the only one going through the struggle.
You're part of a community.
Exactly. And so the accountability and the support system is really key in helping people with the mental and emotional side.
I love that you're doing this show. I love that you're supporting people with empathy and really the right tools. You're an inspiration, and just keep doing everything that you're doing and sharing it, making a huge impact on our country and probably even beyond.
Thank you. I appreciate that.